It goes without saying, studying is something one must do daily. Many short study sessions are simply a necessary part of learning. Unfortunately, there is no shortcut to this. But even after hours of study, you might still not be getting the grades you want. In this video, I'm going to show you a method that will guarantee you success every single time. Hey guys, it's Roxy back with Paperless Student Studies. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Make sure you subscribe if you're looking for study motivation and tips from a paperless minimalist approach. I have been using this method for years and it has never failed me, not once. It involves two parts. The first part is one that I'm doing right now. After I finish studying a topic, ideally a few days later, I come back to the topic to create revision questions from my notes. For this, I am using an application called Margin Note 3 on my iPad Pro 2018 12.9 inches. This application makes it very easy for me to create flashcards from my notes, which I am using as my revision questions. So if you want to learn exactly how to use this application, I will put a link to a video in the description down below. When I was in high school, past exam papers were readily available, and so if you have access to exam papers, this will also work. But now I find most questions I get from my university are essay type questions, and I don't find them very practical for this method. I create the questions for myself. So the front of the flashcard has multiple questions that I ask myself, and the back of the flashcards has answers to those questions. When I'm creating these questions, I try to make them very thorough and as difficult as I can. It's no use creating easy questions for yourself because it won't help you learn anything. So I put myself in the shoes of a difficult and strict professor. We all have one of those. And, that one professor who will drill you for the most ridiculous answers, the kind of professor who will ask you something that got published in a scientific journal yesterday. Yes, that's the professor you want to play. Yes, you get those professors like, really? You really had to ask me that question? Those are the type of questions that I try to make for myself. Try to make them as strict and as difficult and as tricky as I can. And once I've created the questions, I will sort them out randomly, because when using this method, you don't want to ask yourself questions in the same order you created them in. So this application allows me to randomly select. When I put it in the random mode, it will give me random questions from all over the topic, not in any direct order. It took me about an hour to create questions for treatment of arterial hypertension, and once I was done, I was ready to do the second part. The second part is answer the questions a few days later. I created questions on arterial hypertension a few days ago, which is the first part of this topic for the questions I was just creating just now. And now I'm ready to test my knowledge. On the left side of the screen, I have flashcards in Margin Note 3. And on the right, I have my application Notability. This is the application I use for all my study. So basically what I'll be doing is I will answer the questions on the flashcards as much as I can in blue ink. When I'm done, I flip the card to see the answers and I mark myself in red ink. It is beneficial if you're honest with yourself. Mark yourself as your professor would. The stricter you are with yourself, the more benefits you reap out of this method. Well, as I'm marking myself, I realize my mistakes. I realize where I went wrong and what I should have said and how I should have approached answering the question. So I am learning and I'm realizing what I don't understand and what information hasn't really stuck. And while I'm marking myself, I then decide if the question was hard, good, or easy for me to answer for future study sessions. This application allows me to grade my questions so that next time I study, I could just decide to only focus on the hard questions. Don't be discouraged by the things you get wrong. All the mistakes you will make while studying with this method, you will not repeat half of them in the exam. And the more you practice, the better you understand your work and the fewer mistakes you will make. So essentially, this method allows you to make mistakes that you would have otherwise made in the exam to make them before the exam and correct them before the exam. This is why this method is great and this is why it works. So this is practically like sitting the exam in your house and then resitting it after you've corrected all your mistakes, and by the time you go into the exam, you've done the exam so many times already that it's actually impossible for you to fail the exam. Like I said, I've used this method for a long time. I used this method since I was in primary school. I would ask my friends to set questions for me and I'll set questions for them, which was fun because we always competed with each other to see who asks the hardest questions and who's able to answer hardest questions. So that was fun. You can do that as well. The whole idea of this is to help you evaluate how much you know and understand and how much you still need to work on that topic. I like marking myself and putting marks and then calculating the percentage that I have because this helps me really understand and appreciate how much I know and how much I study and how much I still need to work on. So for every question, I will put a mark, and then at the end, after I've finished answering all the questions, I will calculate all the marks and calculate a percentage for that session. And so in the next video, I will show you guys how much I got for this test. So far, it doesn't look good. I have to say, it doesn't look good because I've actually managed to score zeros on a couple of questions. And basically, the more times you repeat this, the better you get. Personally, I know that every time I make a mistake and I get corrected, I get very frustrated and I tend to remember it more if I've actually made a mistake on it. So this is why this method really works for me. I don't like making mistakes, and when I do, it bugs me, and then I remember, I'm like, oh, I remember I said this in class and the teacher gave me the look, so I will remember. I hope you guys found this video useful. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Let me know what study methods you guys find useful with your studies and which ones you don't find useful. I'd like to know what other topics, what other things would you guys like me to cover for you on this channel. Let me know also in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.